Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how I made my mermaid breastplate for my mermaid costume that I created and kind of thrifted for my summer reading programs that I did at work. This is a very kind of lazy version of a breastplate. This is more so if you don't have the money to spend on like contact cement and some other supplies. This is a great way to make a very starter breastplate for your cosplay. Now let's get on to the very chaotic tutorial. The first thing you're going to need is a pattern. You can either create your own using the duct tape and saran wrap method, or you can go online and purchase one. This is actually a pattern that I created for myself, and it is available on my Patreon if you're interested. Otherwise, you can go find creators such as Mermaid Cosplay, Kinpatsu Cosplay, Cheesecake Panda. They all sell really great patterns. Once you have your pattern exactly how you need it, go ahead and put it down on your foam. I like to outline specifically with a pen, not a Sharpie, and labeling all of my little pieces with pens, not Sharpies. Sharpie bleeds through paint, especially if you're using acrylic paint or light colors. So whatever you do, do not use a Sharpie marker when you are outlining and labeling your foam pieces. Make sure that when you're doing it as well that you mirror your edges. For something like this breastplate, I specifically wanted the center part to be joined together for structural integrity. So I had to mirror it and then cut it all out as one giant piece. And for the cups, I had to make sure that I just mirrored it because the other side of this foam is not something that I can use because the foam that I use are old floor mats that are typically used in like mechanic shops. I personally cut my foam out with scissors because I'm using foam floor mats. An X-Acto knife or like the really nice box cutters barely gets through that weird rubbery texture on the bottom. So I like to use scissors, and then I can use a Dremel to exactly change if I need like a 45-degree cut. Otherwise, I would say if you're using really nice foam, make sure you're using a box cutter. But for this, it's not even worth it. Once you have all your pieces cut out, the first thing that you're going to want to do is to begin to heat shape the cups. The breastplate section itself is not going to matter as much because it's just a long piece that you're curving around your body, but the cups themselves are having to bend against a little bit their will. So you're going to want to have a heat gun or something that you can use to heat up your foam a lot so that you can slowly mold it into a cup shape before you start gluing it. You can use either contact cement or hot glue in order to attach all your pieces together. I prefer contact cement because it has a much cleaner look in the end and you can really fill in those cracks well. Whereas with hot glue, it hardens and then it's just kind of bubbly texture all over your stuff. I recommend only using hot glue if you're going to eventually cover your armor with something else like Worbla or like with scales. Otherwise, you're going to definitely want to use contact cement. Now, of course, if you don't have the money for it, don't stress. Use hot glue, get creative. You can heat hot glue up and smooth it out. That's fine. But in the long term, I do highly recommend contact cement instead. From there, I had purchased a ton of scales from both Joann's and Hobby Lobby because I just needed a ton of scales. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough. And every time I ordered more on the Joann's website, they kept sending me the wrong sizes. So eventually I gave up and I cut my own scales out of craft foam. So that's why the top of the mermaid breastplate looks a lot different because I didn't have any scales left over to make my own pattern. So I was just freehanding them. I kind of like how it looks in the end. Also, this was for kids, so no one was going to care. But again, this would be the kind of thing that you would want to save one scale so that you can create a pattern if you're running out and you can make all your own. It's tedious work to cut everything out. Yes, it'd be better if you have like a laser cutter or a Cricut or something like that. I don't own anything like that. It's just me and some scissors. From there, I just hot glued it all on. I actually started at the very bottom, worked my way up. Again, I wasn't really trying to make this really pretty, so my hot glue is kind of everywhere. You can really see it if you look up close, but I don't really care. I attached a zipper on the back of it to hold it together. I personally sew my zipper down onto the foam and then hot glue the edges down as well. This is, I feel, very secure. You nearly have to rip the entire breastplate apart to get the thing off. It works really well. It's what I use on all of my stuff. The hot glue just adds that little extra security to make sure that your stitches don't come out and to also just further hold the zipper down onto the breastplate. Then from there, I put more scales over that whole section to cover up where my stitches were so that really the only thing you would see would be the zipper on the back side, which even then you don't really see because of the wig. I used Yaya Han half dowels to cover around the whole edges just for a little bit extra decoration. And then from there, I plasti dipped the entire thing to just kind of seal all the pores and to also just kind of give a really good foundation for my paint. Now, typically, you do not want to use spray paint for your pieces unless they are completely immovable. Again, I didn't care with this, so I spray painted it. Do not use spray paint on any piece that is required to be flexible because it chips immediately. It cracks all the time. Also make sure when you're using spray paint, if you're using it for anything, to use the same brand of spray paint for every single part. Never mix spray paints because they will in fact sometimes eat like the other paint, have really weird reactions. So just kind of keep that in mind, that if you're using Krylon, keep using Krylon. Same with your sealer. If you used Krylon spray paint, make sure you use a Krylon sealer. I don't know why the things react the way they do, but sometimes Rust-Oleum reacts badly with Krylon, and vice versa. To add a little extra bling, I had a ton of these little fake pearls that like stick onto stuff left over from Jester because I had used them as like little details that I could paint gold. So I just slapped those all over it because I thought it was a nice touch. I don't think anyone noticed, but I noticed. So that's what matters. Then from there, I had some old netting that I had purchased years ago for Halloween stuff. It's supposed to be spiderweb, but it just looks like netting to me. I hot glued that permanently into the inside of the breastplate so that I could have some netting that was like permanently attached and I wouldn't have to sit there and every single time try and figure out really creative ways to drape it around myself. This way it was just attached into it and I could just immediately throw it over my shoulder, kind of have it around my midsection and stuff like that because I was going to be sitting the entire time. So I just kind of wanted something to have, I don't know, cover my midriff because again, this was for children and I never know how parents are going to be with that kind of stuff. And also just have a little bit of extra detail. Once I did that, I was done, and here's the final breastplate look. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, please be sure to leave them down below in the comments. I do have some additional content on my Patreon and Ko-fi that's all about my mermaid stuff, so if you're interested in that, be sure to check it out there. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all next time.